in either direction, I have that power. And yes, women do have that power to also influence their husband, right? There are absolutely buttons, we call them the Momo buttons, that you can press to damn near control your spouse, but in an influential way, not in a way that they start to feel like you're abusing them, but in a way that you are actually influencing them and not controlling them. Because some of you don't understand what it means to be controlling. To be controlling means you're actively, proactively trying to control a bunch of children together, right? Now, Shaquille is a superstar, still a superstar, was a hell of a superstar, right? With the Lakers as a basketballer. So with success comes a lot of responsibilities. Um, Basically, women will throw themselves at you if you're a basketballer, and if you don't have self-control, yeah, you probably won't be able to sustain that, right? So now, what I found interesting about this clip was this part. Let me play this for you really quickly.
You control your life forever. You can't control that. Like
I could have.
But you can't.
So he said, now I didn't get the full context to be fair, right? He said, you control your life forever, but you couldn't control that. And he said, I could. See, I went through something similar, and not divorce, but I did go through a situation where my wife filed for divorce. It was just never finalized. I tell people all the time, I'm not speaking from my ass, I'm speaking from experience, right? And I was able to put my household back together successfully, something that most men in that situation are like, once a woman files for divorce, it's damn near impossible for you to come back from that, usually, for multiple different reasons, right? Because obviously a lot of things are broken down to a certain place for you to be able to come back from that. But I was able to come back from it. So part of the reasons why I was able to come back from it is basically what you're looking at Shaquille doing here, which is taking responsibility for your role as a leader in the situation, not taking responsibility of your role as an equal. See, this is the part where people struggle a lot in marriage. Everyone is trying to compete with each other. And the saddest part is whoever is claiming to be the leader is also trying to compete with the other person. See, I didn't say anything about being the man or the woman or anything like that, right? I said whoever was claiming to be the leader is actively competing with whoever they're trying to lead. This is a great way to demonstrate that you're not a leader. Some people misconstrue that with, oh, so we shouldn't hold people accountable. Yes, that's part of your problem, because again, you're confused. Do you want to be a leader or you don't want to be a leader? If you want to be a leader, you take responsibility for the results you create. It's very, very simple, but I get it. Once you get into a place when you're emotionally caught up, you start to feel like, what about me, right? Well, when you do what about me, you're actively playing equal with the other person. You're buying into the idea of equality with a woman if you're a man, okay? And if you're a woman and you want to claim to be equal partners, and then you're always busy pointing fingers, you are basically committing the same fraud, okay? In one breath, you want to be equal. In the other breath, you don't want to assume at least 50% of the responsibility. He made you do this. He made you do that. He made you see. That's where the confusion comes in, right? But the truth of the matter is that when you're playing the romantic game of life, either by way of a relationship or by way of a marriage, you don't get to do the equal fairness thing. That's not how that works. The only game you can play is complementing each other, coming together and becoming whole, right? How do you come together and become whole? It's not 50-50. And dare I say it's not 100-100 either. That's the same shit. Okay, that's the same thing. I mean, have you ever done math before? Do you know some math? 50-50 and 100-100 is the same shit. Okay? You need to come as a whole and take responsibility for the romantic relationship you subscribe to. That's number one. The role you play is either you're playing the masculine role or you're playing the feminine role, right? Either way, you're playing a wholesome role if you're going to build anything meaningful out of this, okay? Now, this is especially true for you if you're a man in the society that we live in today. And that's what we're looking at Shaquille O'Neal. That's what we're looking at him demonstrating here. But you can see that the look on the gentleman's face, it was a little confused, like, oh, he takes two. No, it never takes two. This is the kind of wrong thing we've been telling ourselves. It never takes two to start. It takes two to keep the machine rolling. I agree with that part, right? It takes a well-oiled machine. And these are sizable books. They are minimum 200 pages. You can download them absolutely for free by simply going to, for example, this one, you just go to getmymarriageback.com, smartrealestatewholesaling.com, realestatemoneysecrets.com. So yes, I am a 3 times author. Those books are out there for your consumption, and they are also available everywhere on Amazon, anywhere that you pick up books. So in case you prefer a physical book like that, to keep things going steady. But to start, it takes the leverage point, whatever that leverage point is. If you're trying to start a car, it takes a key, right? Or if you know what you're doing, you can go in the hood and maybe, it takes one cable wire. It doesn't take trying to operate all of the different parts of the engine at the same time. It takes the leverage point. It's the same thing in marriage. It's something you're not going to hear anywhere else, most likely. Okay? It takes you to start that engine, right? Now, obviously, you're going to create some kind of dance because you're an influential body in that situation, in that context, right? You're going to create some kind of dance. And now being able to respond to every move accordingly and being able to create some kind of harmony is the next key. Then you can start to say it takes two. At least you need the other person responding to you, right? But that's also a function of how much patience do you have, right? It depends on how much damages you've created in the spirit of trying to play equal with your partner, especially if you're a man. In the spirit of trying to play fairness, the fairness game. You want to be in a romantic relationship, or you want to be fair. You have to pick one, right? The reason why you're in that romantic relationship was simply the reason why you started, right? Was simply because you like this person, right? You like that person, right? And then you started a dance. Then they took some interest, and then you start to go back and forth, right? 3 step forwards, 2 step backwards, and then it looks like a perfect harmony made in heaven. What do you call it? It's a match made in heaven, right? That's what it looks like on the outside. But the truth of the matter is that it took one person to start, to make that move. And sometimes when situations get broken down in a relationship, it's going to take one. And that's where humility comes in. Humility is a massive ingredient in creating the kind of synergy that you're looking for in a romantic relationship. Humility, because at some point, sometimes, not all the time, by the way, because some of you are hearing this as all the time, I gotta be the bigger person. No, I'm saying yes, if you can at least look at it as a leverage point, if you can look at it as a powerful place to be, when you know that you're able to basically control this person like a puppet, just because you're able to see things a little bit differently. Right now, you can see the other way around and say, nah, if she's not gonna come to the table equal, I don't want to be a part of it. Well, exactly. You're making it transactional, and it wasn't meant to be transactional. It was a romantic relationship, right? Like, so it's either you like this person or you don't like them. Now you can decide. You always have the power to decide that, yeah, I don't like them. I'd rather just move on, and that's perfectly fine too. But you create the result you create, and you have to eat that L if it's an L, or eat that win if it's a win. It just may be a win, but you have to be willing to see things as what they are and be able to accept the truth. Some of you just make noise about truth all day long, but you really don't like to hear the truth. The truth is that this is a romantic relationship, and that's what Shaquille is telling us here, right? If you say, hey, no, I'll take, that's my fault. People start to look at you like, oh yeah, you're subjugating yourself. Like, don't beat yourself up or anything like that. But actually, it's a very powerful place to be if you understand that this was a romantic relationship. If you're not showing, he's holding himself accountable. Like, listen, I did not honor that situation, right? Let's listen to it one more time, right?
You controlled your life forever. You can't control that. Like
I couldn't.
but you can't.
No, I couldn't.
It's two people.
He said, "How could have?" He said, "But you can't." Actually, he could. It's called influence. He's not trying to control. He understands now today. I don't know how many years later, 15, 10, 20 years later. He said, listen, with what I know today, I have the power to influence my wife in either direction. I have that power. And yes, women do have that power to also influence their husband, right? There are absolutely buttons, we call them the Momo buttons, that you can press to damn near control your spouse, but in an influential way, not in a way that they start to feel like you're abusing them, but in a way that you are actually influencing them and not controlling them. Because some of you don't understand what it means to be controlling. To be controlling means you're actively, proactively trying to control